So then, with the release of the new iPhone 15 models, and specifically the new 15 Pro Max, a lot of you guys still actually own a 12 Pro Max out there and are considering maybe upgrading this year. And you guys want to know what the difference is between a 12 Pro Max compared to, say, a 15 Pro Max. So what I'm going to do for you today is I'm going to do an iPhone 15 Pro Max versus the iPhone 12 Pro Max in a review of specs. And let's get started right away. So then what we have the iPhone 15 Pro Max on the left and the iPhone 12 Pro Max on the right. And let's get started then with the actual iPhone sizes here. So the actual sort of the main thickness of the actual iPhone, as you can see here, the iPhone Pro Max is definitely thicker than the iPhone 12 Pro Max. You know, at the end of the day, we are talking almost a whole millimeter sort of thicker here. And the main reason is because we do have a bigger battery, we have bigger and better cameras inside, what you'll see a bit later on in this sort of comparison. But funny enough, the actual length is about 1 millimeter slightly smaller on the 15 Pro Max compared to the 12 Pro Max. As you can see, 159.9 compared to 160.8. And then the actual width as well, there is definitely a difference here. We're about 1.5 sort of millimeters actually a bit more thinner here in the width compared to the 12 Pro Max. So it's good to see that over the years that it definitely has got a bit more thinner and the design's been a bit more redefined, which is really, really cool. For the actual iPhone weight though, the actual 15 Pro Max to 12 Pro Max has really nothing in it. There is 5 grams between them both. So the 15 Pro Max is 5 grams lighter than the 12 Pro Max. And if you just want to know what that basically means, if you got yourself, say, a tempered glass screen protector, they weigh about 12 to 15 grams on a sort of a 12 Pro Max or 15 Pro Max. So at the end of the day, just adding that, you're really going to change the difference of the weight already. And I think most of you will actually agree here that if you put a tempered glass screen protector on, you really cannot tell the difference, can you, that you've got more weight on your phone. So there we go, they're basically identical in that way. Then we have the screen resolution. Now the 12 Pro Max does actually have a slightly less screen resolution. This is because it uses an older screen technology of OLED displays, where the actual 15 Pro Max, it is different again, is that we've actually got slightly resolution here. So we've got 2796 by 1290. Then what this basically means in pixels per inch, as you can see here, the 15 Pro Max has 460 pixels per inch, whereas the 12 Pro Max has 458 pixels per inch. And really, you're just not going to see the difference here with those 2 pixels per inch. There's hardly anything in it whatsoever. But something that you will probably notice is the refresh rate. So the 12 Pro Max was the very, very last iPhone to actually have a 60 Hz refresh rate display in a Pro model. And it wasn't until the 13 Pro Max and the 13 Pro that we got 120 Hertz ProMotion. So you're going to get all that goodness inside it. So this is 1 Hertz to 120 Hertz. Also, another big difference that I'll mention at this stage is obviously you get Dynamic Island compared to the 12 Pro Max as well, what came out with the 14 Pro series. For the display protection, you're getting ceramic shield on both of them. The technology is exactly the same on that glass protection there. But then moving over to the processor and CPU, there are some changes here. So we do have that brand new A17 Pro chipset inside the 15 Pro Max. What is a 3 nanometer build, 6-core CPU, and has a 6-core GPU inside it with a 16-core neural engine, what is around about 6 times more powerful than what's inside the 12 Pro Max. It's just the neural engine. Whereas the A14 was made on a 5 nanometer die, it has a 6-core CPU and a 4-core GPU. And just in case you want to know what that basically means in the process and the CPU actual sort of power, the actual Geekbench 6 for the multi-core on the 15 Pro Max is 7,238 compared to the 4,169 on the actual A14. And that results in a 54% more faster CPU. So you're definitely going to be benefiting from a faster processor this time around if you went from a 12 Pro Max to a 15 Pro Max. And also the same with RAM too. The 15 Pro Max actually has 8 gigabytes of the newer LPDDR5 RAM, whereas the 12 Pro Max has the old LPDDR4X RAM, what's only 6 gigabytes. So there is a difference there. Then after that, we've actually got the storage amounts. So we got basically here with the 12 Pro Max, it actually starts at 128 gigabytes and went all the way up to 1 terabyte for the very first time on the 12 Pro Max. Whereas the 15 Pro Max, we've only got 256 gigabytes going up to 1 terabyte on it this time. For actual battery sizes, as you can see here, there is a difference. So the 15 Pro Max has a 4,422 milliamp battery, whereas the 12 Pro Max has a 3,687 milliamp battery. The 15 Pro Max has an 18% larger battery inside it. So you will definitely see the gains here. And just to show you here, in the playback time, you can see the differences here. So with that new A17 chipset being more efficient, so that larger battery, the 15 Pro Max for video playback gives you 9 hours more compared to with the 12 Pro Max. That's almost around about a third more, between a quarter and a third more battery sort of life that you will be getting there. And the same with audio playback too. It's 95 hours compared to 80 hours. So definitely a good upgrade if you go from a 12 Pro Max to a 15 Pro Max. Then we have the wired and wireless charging. There are some differences here. Both of these phones come with the wireless MagSafe at 15 watts, so no differences whatsoever, but the actual wired connection is different. The iPhone 15 Pro Max comes with USB-C 28 watts, so basically if you plugged in a charger at 20 watts, it will charge it at 20 watts, but say if you plug in a charger, say at 30 or 60 watt charger, it will charge at a maximum of 28 watts. Whereas the wired Lightning on the iPhone 12 Pro Max, you can plug in say a 5 watt charger at Lightning that will charge at 5 watts, but the absolute maximum that you can charge at is 20 watts at 12 Pro Max with that one. The water resistance is exactly the same on both of these models. They're both IP68, 6 meters up to 30 meters. So if you do chuck your phone into a lake or something, quickly rescue it, then you should be fine up to 30 minutes there. And as I mentioned then with the ports, as you know, then we've got the new USB-C port on the 15 Pro Max. Well, also is a 10 gigabit port as well to transfer your data and everything off it, compared to the 12 Pro Max, which is that standard Lightning port. We can only get your data off at 480 megabits per second instead. There is no headphone ports, obviously, on these iPhones. We've moved on from that. Then we actually have the action button. The 15 Pro Max introduced this for the first time this year, so obviously the 12 Pro Max does not have this whatsoever. And the same with Bluetooth technology. The 15 Pro Max, obviously it's newer, it's got Bluetooth 5.3 compared to Bluetooth 5.0. But moving on to then the rear cameras. And straight away, if you just look at the pictures here of the two phones, you can see that the 15 Pro Max, it's sort of square off the lenses, is already just bigger anyway. So you know you're going to be getting definitely bigger sensors, bigger everything. Definitely a better camera setup to what we have with the 12 Pro Max. And just to go through some of those details, it's a 48 megapixel wide compared to a 12 megapixel wide, 12 megapixel ultra, 12 megapixel telephoto on both, but like I said, it's a different type of sensor what's in the 15 Pro Max. And also both of these can record up to 4K video, and also both of them have LiDAR sensors as well. Then moving on then to rear camera features, and there are obviously some differences here. So both of them do have quad tone, and what the actual 15 Pro Max can do, it can actually do a 25 times digital zoom compared to the 15 times digital zoom. And the main reason behind that, it has a 5 times and 2 times optical zoom inside it, whereas the 12 Pro Max only has a 2.5 times optical zoom. So you're going to see some massive differences there. We do have night mode. We do have deep fusion. The 15 Pro Max has HDR5 inside it, smart one of that, where you've only got smart HDR3 in the 12 Pro Max. You do have Apple Pro RAW on both of these for photos, but you do actually get Apple ProRes 60 frames per second and 60 frames per second cinematic mode on the 15 Pro Max, where the 12 Pro Max does not have this whatsoever. For the actual selfie cameras, there are some differences here. Both of them are 12 megapixels, but obviously the one in the 15 Pro Max is a newer and better one. And it can also have autofocus as well, but you do get up to 4K video on both of those single lenses. For the Ultra Band chip, or the U chip, the 15 Pro Max has a U2 chip inside it, whereas the 12 Pro Max only has a U1 chip inside. Then for the prices, this is where there are no differences, funny enough. The 12 Pro Max comes in at $1,099 US when it came out for the 128 gigabyte option. Now, if you did buy a 12 Pro Max with 256 gigabytes of storage, it would have cost the same as the 256 gigabytes 15 Pro Max that you see right here, which $1,199 US. But being that we're talking 3 years ago, we've had a lot of inflation since then. So really, you could actually argue that the 15 Pro Max technically is cheaper for what you are getting compared to the 12 Pro Max when that first launched 3 years ago. So that is really good news to hear. Like I said, if you bought yourself the 256 gigabyte option. Then for the actual colors, there are actually just 4 colors available for the phones this year. So what we've actually got here, we've got the new titanium black, white, blue, and natural color what came out, and obviously that's all titanium sort of feel to it, whereas with the original 12 Pro Max it's stainless steel, it came with silver, space black, gold, and Pacific blue, and there was no sort of midlife upgrade also on those colors though. And with that though, guys, will you be buying yourself a new iPhone? So as you can see there, you are getting a lot of upgrades from going from a 12 Pro Max to a 15 Pro Max. And the main reason behind that is you're inheriting a lot of those upgrades from the 13 Pro Max, the 14 Pro Max, and now the 15 Pro Max. And I've said this before in a lot of my videos, it is definitely worth upgrading your iPhone, probably really every 3 to 4 years. Just like this 12 Pro Max to the 15 Pro Max, you can see battery life, camera, just so many things, USB-C. I could keep on going here on features that you're just going to get huge more enhancements in what you're going to get if you got yourself a 15 Pro Max compared to what you have right now with the 12 Pro Max. Well guys, it's also time to wrap up the video at the same time, so I do hope it has been useful, and if it has been, please do press the like button. Also at the same time, if you want to hear the latest Apple news, reviews, and comparisons, make sure you subscribe to this channel and also hit that notification bell. Until next time guys, I will see you really soon. Take care. Bye bye.